Video by Aaron Katsuo. I finished Jujutsu Kaisen and I am broken. So yeah, this is the average JJK experience for sure. Especially with regards to Nanami and Nobara. And the series as a whole is just a little bit depressing.
I really want to talk about Jujutsu Kaisen from how I felt coming into the show and the aftermath
Classic Jujutsu Kaisen experience. Sad SpongeBob.
of watching everything. I mean, consuming all three seasons in a span of a week is
Wait, you binged Jujutsu Kaisen? Then how are you broken? It's like this guy didn't even really get time to like settle with the characters in the series. He just speed blitzed through the episodes. He just binge watched everything.
I can't help but think that this was a detriment to my mental being, to my mental state. But guess what? I did enjoy the ride. I enjoyed watching Jujutsu Kaisen, and I think the transformation
It truly is the greatest modern shonen. Like we gotta be for real. Jujutsu Kaisen's formula perfects everything. It's kind of like a slightly worse version of Hunter x Hunter.
with how the anime has become from during the first half of season 1 and 2 to the second half of season 2 up until season 3. It's such a mind-boggling journey because
Honestly, hot take, but I think I preferred the art style or the animation. I guess specifically the art style of season 1 the most. I know a lot of people say they prefer season 2 and season 3, but for me personally, I always like season 1. I don't know.
initially came into the show thinking it's another one of those shonen where the masses eat it up. It has all these qualities of being a standard shonen. You
Yep.
have you have this thing called curse technique that's so
The thing with JJK is it's like the perfect shonen. It completes the versatility. Like Akutami just balanced everything. Like it is JJK is probably the best anime to recommend to somebody who wants to get into anime or just wants to get into shonen anime.
interesting to learn, and people are more preoccupied about the fights. People are more preoccupied about what the power does, or if this person is powerful, if this curse spirit is powerful. Can
That's just power scaling culture.
Itadori beat this person? That was my initial expectation of season 1, and it was pretty much. There were hints, of course, that the anime was far different than what it really was, but in general, what I've seen from season 1 is similar to most shonen. That's not in any way, shape, or form me disrespecting the story, right? And I think it's so important to understand that season 1 sets the foundations for the story of Jujutsu Kaisen. It's
Jujutsu Kaisen took inspiration from so many shonen animes and they perfected the formula. That's it.
one of the main things why season 2 hits so much more harder because of how vastly different it was from season 1. Yes, we did
Yeah.
experience the loss of Junpei, and even Itadori's death was
Personally, for me, peak Jujutsu Kaisen wasn't even Shibuya arc. It was actually well, technically it'll be Shinjuku Showdown once that's animated. But so far, the peak of Jujutsu Kaisen for me was actually the versus Mahito arc, like episodes 9 through 15, I believe. Like I really just loved Nanami and Nanami and Toto versus wait, no, not even Toto. Sorry, Nanami and Yuji versus Mahito. Now, Toto and Yuji versus Mahito was also peak, but I feel like I really just loved the versus Mahito arc in season 1.
surprising. But even Junpei was a side character, and that did feel impactful, but it wasn't to the level
Speed, you nasty, bruh. That's gross.
of what season 2 was going to be. You were sort of baited into this false sense of security, making you think that season 2 was going to be okay, people are going to die, that's for sure. There's going to be casualties, but we'll still end up victorious. We, in fact, did not end up victorious. And I think season 2 was where most of the strain of the story of Jujutsu Kaisen was being put onto. This was a story of a magnitude that stopped giving its villains any sort of limits. And this realization
And that's why the anime is so good though. Like straight up, that's why JJK is such a good anime.
accompany the transformation of Itadori Yuji as well. From
Yeah, bro, Yuji was literally this random high schooler, and then he starts undergoing trauma caused by Sukuna, the king of curses, and then he becomes a cog and he just becomes depressed, bro. Like the character development is insane.
what he was in season one, this happy guy who was constantly thinking about saving people and giving each other proper death.
Bro, even with the Yuji's character, it kind of feels like Hunter x Hunter inspired because even Gone from Hunter x Hunter, like he was happy and then he became super sad in the Chimera Ant arc. And there's just so many like parallels and similarities in general between them.
It's almost like that part of him was being stripped away in season two. I don't know why, but it felt like
Bro, you see like Yuji making this expression in the Yuji becoming this like sad and depressed in Shibuya arc is similar to Gon raging at Pito and Gon just crying for Kite in the Chimera Ant arc. And what's crazy is both of those arcs are actually each respective series magnum opus. Like it's the best arc. The Chimera Ant arc is the best arc of Hunter x Hunter, and the Shibuya arc of Jujutsu Kaisen is technically the best arc of Jujutsu Kaisen. Technically.
Gege Akutami, the author of Jujutsu Kaisen, had some personal beef with Itadori Yuji for putting him through so much strain. And I remember telling myself, wow, season 2 did not feel like a shonen. It felt more like the boundaries between a shonen and a seinen, because it was still dealing with themes about,
And that's literally why it's perfect. This guy literally just said it was a perfect balance. He just said the balance was so great. Like, that is what Jujutsu Kaisen does best. It balances everything perfectly.
fighting and compassion, empathy, and all these kinds of things, but a part of it was sort of deviating
Like, it's not some random coincidence that Jujutsu Kaisen is blowing up and that everybody's hyped for Gojo versus Sukuna. Like, this isn't random, bro. JJK is extremely popular.
into something more uglier, I suppose, and that's where seinen tend to land most. And season 2 almost perfectly encapsulates
Yo, bro, Nanami went crazy here, man. Bro, Nanami.
that. One of the main things why season 2 to me was close to perfection is the conclusion, something that ultimately ends
I wish, bro, I just wish Akutami would have done more with this character. I'm not even trying to spoil. That's all I'm gonna say. I wish Akutami would have done more with this character right here, man.
the Shibuya incident. But to me, not only did it not feel like it ended, it still mutated into something far more than we could imagine. And that
Everybody thought that Kenjaku was gonna be the main villain, the final villain, and then it's just like Akutami just does what he does, and Kenjaku's conclusion was so disappointing.
was season 3. Now, season 3 wasn't all the same with season 2. I think it was far more of the dust settling down. It was the moment where we see this change in Itadori Yuji finally starting to form, and Fushiguro as well, taking this approach where he's now far more calculated, far
Bro, I'm glad we actually got some screen time with Fushiguro in the culling game because people kept calling this man, potential man, a fraud. And low-key, this is just personal opinion, but I just feel like the deuteragonist and tritagonist, like Nobara, as an entire group of three, like Nobara and Megumi just aren't really as well written as Yuji, and they don't get enough screen time at all, especially Nobara. And Megumi, if you know what happens in the manga, he doesn't get much screen time either. Very disappointing by Akutami. Extremely disappointing, but that's how it
more
goes.
colder in order to keep the people that he cares for safe. But I still did enjoy season 3. I think it's still as enjoyable as the second.
Bro, I remember watching this RDC World 1 video. This is some P. Diddy meme video. Bro, Leland was funny as hell, bro. Like, what type of dance?
But I still did enjoy season 3. I think it's still as enjoyable as the
The
second
fuck?
season. Far more than the first season, that's for sure. Because of the stakes, because of what we've been through. I think there were parts in season 3 where I just felt like saying to Itadori Yuji, hey bro, come on. I know we're fighting some pretty strong curses, we're fighting some pretty strong curse
Oh
use.
my god, Higuruma versus Yuji was just peak cinema, bro. The way that Higuruma, like, the dynamics and just the overall, like, the themes explored. Higuruma, he was this just, good lawyer. He was extremely moral, and then he becomes broken by law, by the judicial system. And Yuji Itadori was also broken by the Jujutsu world and its system. Like, ultimately, they were both kind of cogs in a way. This was just peak, especially Yuji, just like Higuruma essentially forgiving Yuji for Shibuya arc, and he said that Yuji did nothing wrong. It was Sukuna's fault. Like, it was just beautiful. And even just Higuruma rambling on saying that humans are weak and ugly, like, awesome. It was just peak, honestly.
But bro, we've been through Shibuya. That's how I felt like going through season 3. That's how I felt like throughout season 3. Constantly reminding myself and me wanting to remind Itadori Yuji, bro, we've been through Shibuya. We've seen the shit that has happened in Shibuya, and we've fought far more disturbing and powerful monsters in Shibuya than what we're experiencing in the
I'll say it again, man. Mahito arguably might be the best villain in JJK. Kenjaku's conclusion sucked, and Sukuna's conclusion was a little bit iffy.
colonies in Tokyo or in Sendai or wherever it is. I don't think in a long while anything in the story is gonna equal that of what season 2 was. The Shibuya incident was just filled with so many characters
Yup.
that evolved
Bro, the pinnacle, like the peak of Shibuya arc was obviously Todo and Yuji versus Mahito, but alongside that, it was just so peak to get to see Toji fighting everybody, like Toji versus Dagon. Now, this is a hot take, but I personally didn't care for Sukuna versus Maharaga. I don't know why, it just didn't really hit for me. In Gojo versus the Disaster Curses, it was okay, but it just felt like a one-sided matchup. Personally, I actually enjoyed fights more so like Todo and Yuji versus Mahito, as well as Toji versus Dagon, even though technically Toji versus Dagon was one-sided. Yeah.
and changed over time, and I think season 3 is going to be the build up for that in season 4, and that's what I sort of like about season 3. It's
Bro, season 4 is going to be peak. We're instantly going to get Hikari versus you know who. I'm not trying to spoil, but the rest of JJK is peak.
it's not like the Shibuya incident, but we get to see now the transformations. It's almost
Honestly, what I'd say I'm kind of hyped for is the return of a certain character. Let me not be too vague. Maybe I should just say spoiler alert. Let's just say I'm hyped for the fight against a certain cursed spirit who was a human that resurrects. You guys should know who I'm talking about. You guys should know who. Actually, no, I can literally just say this. I'm hyped for Time Cell Moon Palace. There. That way I can spoil without technically spoiling. Because if I say Time Cell Moon Palace, the people who have read the manga watching this video right now, you guys know who I'm hyped for. You guys know the fight I'm looking forward to.
kind of poetic, right? With Itadori Yuji and Fushiguro, how the Shibuya incident sort of
Bro, honestly, a small tangent, but Time Cell Moon Palace actually might be like top 5 domain expansions. I just got to be honest. It might be top 5.
transfigured them, transformed
Because I'm pretty sure in the manga it says that it affects you on the like cellular or the atomic level. Like Time Cell Moon Palace is extremely broken. It's not even funny.
them and changed them internally. Their souls changed and who they are as people. I want to end this video off by saying I hate Mei Mei. Gojo could have done more.
Mei Mei is still bad. But okay, low key. Yeah, I don't know what Akutami was necessarily trying to do with Mei character. Like I'm really kind of confused on that part. But yeah, she's basically female Diddy, I guess, right? Yeah.
It's Mekamaru's fault, and didn't deserve to die. I don't see Ijichi anymore. I think he's just
I think in the entirety of JJK, the saddest death, it's either Nanami or Junpei. It's really one of those two. Yeah, Nanami or Junpei. I'm leaning towards, hmm, man. I don't know. It's Nanami or Junpei. It's hard to really decide between those two because both of them were so traumatic.
incapacitated too, but Todo as well. Wow. I mean, I've lost all hope with most of the characters in this show. I'm sticking with Itadori Yuji until the very bitter end. That's how
Yep.
I feel.
Bro, people used to question Yuji as a main character, but ever since he's gotten so much development in Shibuya and throughout the series, he's been a great main character. Like, among shonen, I'm pretty sure I have him as like the second best. You could argue that Deku is a better main character than Yuji, which he probably is, unless we include like Modulo Yuji. In that case, Modulo Yuji might still arguably be better written than Deku. Who really knows? The only anime MC I really have above Yuji, like in terms of new gen anime, modern anime, of course, is Denji from Chainsaw Man.
Wherever he ends up with, I'll stand there with him. But I'm tired. But yeah,
Yeah,
anyways,
that's
that's
fair. No, all Jujutsu Kaisen fans are tired, man. Or technically, I guess broken, right?
how I feel about Jujutsu Kaisen. There's a lot of things I want to talk about Jujutsu Kaisen. There's a lot of topics that I want to dive into, but I think I'll just contain it into this. Expect more Jujutsu Kaisen.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, this guy was literally left broken. That's sad, bro. He started the series as Yuji, and then after finishing Jujutsu Kaisen, he basically became depressed like Megami. But yeah, guys, that's the Jujutsu Kaisen experience.